At a therapist's appointment, a teenage girl, Su-rin, tells her life story on video camera. The filming bothers the girl, which makes her unable to begin her story. The doctor reassures Su-rin and asks her to tell the smallest details, promising that what she hears from the girl will remain only between them. Su-rin hesitates for a while, but then decides to begin the story. She tells him that she used to live with her mother, but that when she was in the 4th grade, her mother got married and died soon after. The girl stayed to live with her stepfather, and after finishing 6th grade, she had to move to another place of residence. They are sailing across the sea on a motorboat. On the way, the girl, immersed in her thoughts about her future, looks at the seascapes and photographs birds. After traveling by sea, they continue their journey to their new place of residence by car. The girl moves to a new class, where the teacher introduces Su-rin to her classmates. On her first day at the new school, the heroine stays apart from everyone else. When she returns from school, she notices a car driven by her stepmother coming towards her. She does not wait for him to arrive and hides behind a pile of building materials on the side of the road. Her stepfather notices this and she has to come out of her hiding place. The man tells her that he will be working the night shift from now on and can call him if he needs to. He leaves and the girl continues on her way home. The action shifts to a subway construction site where construction workers are blowing up a subway shaft. The girl seems to live close to the site of the explosion, as objects in her room are shaken by the blast. Su-rin opens her music box to soothe herself with a melody and turns her gaze to a photo of herself and her mother together. At this point, the girl has thoughts of running away, just to avoid staying here. She begins to search for a solution on the internet. The girl is so fascinated by information about existing in the astral worlds that she searches even during class time. After class, she forgets to turn off her computer, remembering it already in the school hallway. Su-rin immediately returns to class, but finds her computer surrounded by her laughing classmates. On her way home from school, she meets a boy named Young Seong-min near the orphanage. The next day, upon arriving at school, Su-rin meets her classmates in the school corridor, discussing her plans from her correspondence. Young Seong-min is among the children. The girl reacts negatively to this and claims it's all nonsense. The boy catches up with Su-rin in the schoolyard and informs her that he used a technique he learned about from the girl's personal blog. Su-rin admits to her unsuccessful attempts, but he convinces her that the important thing is to believe and offers to keep practicing in this direction. The girl shares her secret alphabet with her new friend, and they begin to correspond with this language. In correspondence, the classmates arrange to meet to summon a spirit. They perform a ritual to summon the spirit, but their questions to the spirit go unanswered. Their friendship and correspondence in secret symbols only grows stronger. One day, Young Seong-min takes her friend to an abandoned house, which she thinks looks like a portal to another dimension. Sitting on the balcony of the abandoned house, the children share their feelings about their orphanhood. The boy recalls his father's last words before he left him at the orphanage and claims that as long as he is with Su-rin, she is safe. The boy carves a portrait of his friend on a piece of soap, and it turns out funny and the children laugh. A mysterious coldness hangs over their backs. The boy scares the girl that someone is supposedly watching them, and then tells her that it was a joke. He runs away, and the girl tries to catch up with him. On the way, Su-rin falls down the steps and drops his portrait gift on a bar of soap into a hole in the rotten floor of an old house. The boy tries to retrieve the gift and hurts his hand until it bleeds. The children never manage to get the object out from under the floor. Su-rin senses the boy's sympathy, then kisses him and tells him that if he betrays her, she will kill him. The boy is stunned. She promptly leaves the house. One day, Su-rin catches her friend in the company of his peers. They spill the news that they are going to go to the tunnels to watch the explosions. The girl convinces the teenagers to take her with them. The children overcome the barbed wire fence and embark on the perilous journey. They spend a long time waiting for an explosion, hiding behind a bump. At this point, Su-rin notices a small entrance to a cave under the roots of a tree. Her friend determines that it is quite deep, and the company tosses lots to choose who will climb in first. Eventually, all the children climb into the cave under the roots of the tree one by one. The company crawls down the narrow passage of the cave, but ends up in a spacious grotto with a small lake, at the bottom of which lies a glowing ball like an egg. The children are fascinated by what they see and speculate about what it could be. Young Seong-min dives into the deep lake to retrieve the egg from the bottom. After the boy retrieves the egg from the water, it goes out and the cave becomes very dark. The children immediately leave the cave, taking the egg with them. Upstairs, one of the boys tells a legend his grandfather told him. Suddenly, Su-rin discovers a hairpin is missing and decides to return to the cave to find it. The boys confront young Seong-min with their love for the girl and then laugh. Meanwhile, she reaches the bottom of the cave and finds the hairpin. At that moment, a violent explosion is heard on the surface. The water in the lake begins to glow and the cave collapses. Su-rin barely makes it out of the cave in time. On her way out of the cave, the girl discovers a broken egg, but the boys are nowhere to be seen. As night falls, the girl can't find the boys, and her phone runs out of power. She is left alone in the dark forest. At this time, alarmed parents demand that work at the mine be stopped because they cannot find their children. The stepfather is informed that they have seen Su-rin in the company of teenagers. The news reports that the children have disappeared, and a massive earthquake is reported at the time of their disappearance. A search is underway for the children throughout the earthquake area. Police question Su-rin's stepfather, but he doesn't even remember what the girl was wearing. After her mother died, their relationship was not very close. The cops suspect that she might have just run away. Su-rin is found alive, and the girl was taken away by ambulance, accompanied by her stepfather and the police. The other parents are desperate. In the hospital room, Su-rin tells the truth about what happened, but the adults find it hard to believe. The girl tries to lead the parents of the police and reporters to the scene, but cannot find him. At this time, the body of one of the boys is found, but in a completely different place, far from the incident. All the townspeople believe that Su-rin and her stepfather's mining operations are to blame. At school, the girl is despised by her classmates. Soon they find the neatly folded clothes of the disappeared boys. The police continue their search for witnesses. Su-rin is alone at home when strange noises are heard outside the door. She runs out and sees that the secret place in the bricks is empty. The girl notices someone running into the woods and tries to catch up with that person. While running, Su-rin hurts her leg and sits on the ground. Suddenly, a tall, hooded young man walks right out at her and addresses her by name. She is badly frightened, so she presses herself into a tree. He squats down in front of her and touches her face. The guy introduces himself as Seong-min. The girl screams very loudly and runs toward the road, not letting him show her the proof, their secret notebook of correspondence. She rushes to her stepfather's car, who was just passing by. The cops find the notebook in the woods, but don't accept it as solid evidence. Su-rin says it's her notebook and promptly hides with the notebook in her room. From what the boy has written, Su-rin learns about what happened to the boys while she was in the cave. It turns out that Seong-min broke an egg, after which the whole world stopped. The boys have spent several days in that world, but nothing has changed. Meanwhile, the police find the fingerprints of an adult male. Su-rin tries to resolve the situation and lies to the cops that she didn't see anyone in the woods. The investigator investigates Su-rin's blog about the astral world. The action is carried back to the events described by Seong-min in the notebook. The boys spend a long time in the frozen world. One of the boys, named Jae-wook, dies one day due to a lack of asthma medicine. The children bury him in the playground, leaving his belongings near his grave for his parents to remember. It's day 1974 in a frozen world, but nothing changes, for all days are the same. The boys stay together, Seong-min and Tae-shik. The boys have grown up and are learning on their own. They are in their 20s and they believe they will be back. Seong-min wonders if no one will recognize him. He finds a lost present in the leaky floor of an old house and puts it in a Su-rin music box. The whole situation the guy points out in a notebook. The guys are well into their 20s, but they still remain in another world. Tae-shik gradually loses faith, and Seong-min tries to distract himself with his passionate soap carving. They are on the brink of despair. Finally, the mood changes phase, but Tae-shik disappears. After a long search, Seong-min finds his clothes on the edge of a cliff and realizes that his friend killed himself by jumping off the cliff. Seong-min feels strangely relieved. The boy also throws himself off the cliff into the water and sees his dead friend in the water. Suddenly, the water comes alive and pushes him to the surface. Seong-min returns to the living world. Su-rin goes to an abandoned house where she finds her friend. The girl returns the diary to him and asks for forgiveness. After a tender apology, they weep bitterly and embrace. The boy's wall paintings and a carved panel of soap are preserved in this reality. The girl promises to help Seong-min to be believed. Su-rin helped him adjust to the real world. Together, they devise convincing arguments to confirm Seong-min's identity. Su-rin tries to tell her classmate the truth, but the boy refuses to believe her. He throws the diary with the story described into a body of water. The diary disappears into the watery abyss. Meanwhile, the police are looking for Seong-min, who was caught on one of the video recorders. They suspect him of kidnapping children because they don't know it's him. They promise a reward for his capture. Seong-min sits on the doorstep of an abandoned house. A beautiful butterfly sits on his palm and takes him inside. There he hears voices that lead him to a chimney. The voices from there intensify, and he dives into the pipe and finds himself in deep water. There, in a watery abyss, an unknown force grabs him by the hand and draws him down to the depths. He finds himself in the room of the sleeping Surin. The children are asleep, holding hands. In the morning at his stepfather's workplace, he is greeted by the angry parents of the missing boys. They blame him and his daughter for what happened. A fight is barely avoided. The stepfather gets in his car and drives off. The children walk along familiar trails. The girl reports that she was able to calculate the boy's approximate age from the lunar phases and claims that he is definitely not yet 30 years old. Su-rin meets with the boy's caretaker and tries to find out if she would recognize him as an adult. Su-rin is about to show the boy to the teacher, but suddenly her stepfather shows up at the doorstep of the orphanage and shoves her into the car. The stepfather pounces on his daughter, accusing her of talking nonsense. In response, the girl blames him for her mother's death because he let her die. The man locks the girl in her room and nails the door shut. He does the same with the window. Seong-min approaches the caregiver and tells a story that only they know. The stepfather in his car, in the middle of the road, checks Su-rin's phone gallery and finds a picture with Seong-min there. At this time, Seong-min releases the girl from the room. They escape. The stepfather doesn't find his daughter at home and calls the detective to report his daughter missing. The couple is on a cliff, speculating about whom else might have known the goblin story. Su-rin recalls the glowing water in the cave and suspects that there is another egg there. She asks her friend to go there again. The guy thinks that breaking a new egg is not the answer. He suggests simply leaving the island and escaping. The stepfather finds an abandoned house from a photograph and makes his way there. In the meantime, the couple returns. They change their clothes and pack a bag for the road. Suddenly, the stepfather jumps out of hiding and hits the guy in the head with a bat. Su-rin rushes to his friend's aid. A fight ensues between the men. Seong-min racks a chair over his stepfather to finish him off, but the girl prevents it. In the morning, an investigation team is on the scene. Seong-min is suspected of pedophilia and prolonged intimacy with Su-rin. On the hospital grounds, the detective asks the girl's stepfather for more facts. The man hands him Su-rin's phone and tells him that she calls the boy Seong-min. Everyone suspects that the girl is not herself. Even the local TV news suspects the street girl of having excessive fantasies or mental disorders. Seong-min observes this. Su-rin tries unsuccessfully to get tickets for two at the river station, but she is required to have an adult ID. Meanwhile, there is a report on all the monitors at the train station about the search for the two young men, and their photos are shown. The police are already at the station, search all the cars and all the areas. The children hop into the first cab, but realize they won't make it through the checkpoint ahead. Seong-min quickly pays the cab driver and they jump out of the car. The children run in the direction of the park. The cab driver immediately points them out to the police. The chase begins. Under the bridge, the police almost catch up with them. Su-rin orders his friend to flee the chase immediately and wait for her at the cave. The girl runs towards the police to distract them. The detective's colleague suggests that he compare the prints from Seong-min's childhood belongings with those of his adult version. The detective rejects his offer, citing lack of time. In a conversation with Su-rin, the detective offers her a more realistic version of events and insists on giving Seong-min's whereabouts. The girl escapes from the police station. On her way to the place where they meet, she notices a glow on a hill and a full moon in the sky. She finds the cave after all and makes her way inside. The glowing egg is in place. The police are already combing the woods with their dogs. The girl retrieves the egg from the bottom of the lake. Barely reaching the surface of the ground, she releases the egg from her hands. The egg rolls right under Seong-min's feet. He picks it up off the ground. The girl asks him to give the egg back to her and promises that he will surely return from the other world. He says he'd rather confess to killing and kidnapping the boys. At this time, a wind rises and the tree above the cave is ripped from the ground with its roots and falls to the ground. The young men are not hurt. Seong-min runs away with the egg. The girl wants to catch up with him, but the police spot the boy and follow him too. The boy is on the edge of a cliff with the egg. Su-rin begs him not to break the egg, but he can't let her get hurt. At this point, the cops overtake them and point their guns at the guy. Su-rin shuts him down with him and begs everyone to listen to the boy. A careless move and the girl fall off the cliff and grab the edge. The detective rushes to her aid, barely holding himself and her back. On the other side, Seong-min tries to reach for her with his hand, but all proves futile. Su-rin and the detective fall into the sea abyss. The girl stands on the seashore, mesmerized by the frozen sea wave. Seong-min takes her hand. They smile, but it's only a dream. Su-rin wakes up on the beach, a detective lying unconscious not far from her. It turns out that the guy stopped time to save Su-rin. The stepfather drives the girl away from an angry mob of reporters. They drive up to the house and notice the house with angry burn in hell signs and broken glass at the entrance. The girl is visited again by the detective and convinced that it would be better for everyone if she testified that the guy threatened her. The episode in the therapist's office again. Soo Rin ends her story. The therapist asks her permission to print the story in her book. The girl asks for a note from the Seongmin boy, written in a secret alphabet, to be attached to the story. Soo Rin receives a sample personal history book as a gift. She now attends a girls' boarding school. Her stepfather drives her to the ferry crossing. In the middle of the road, she abruptly jumps out of the car because she imagines a Seongmin on the pedestrian section. But it's just her imagination. The stepfather calms his daughter down and they continue their journey. The girl is on board a motor ship, leafing through a book with her own history, and comes to a place where a letter in mysterious language is printed. With a sideways glance, she spots Seongmin. Soo Rin rushes after him and catches up with him on the second floor of the deck. He turns his head toward the girl. His hair is covered in light gray, which means he's been to another world again, but he's back. They are together again. They can't take their eyes off each other. The ship sails off into the distance to the loud cries of the seagulls.